Welcome everyone to your second video lecture and also the last lecture for the week. So make sure that you're looking back over things. You do have a quiz tomorrow on Friday. If you're doing this on Thursday, you do have the quiz on Friday no matter what. A lot of it's going to be just questions about how you're being able to access everything on Google Classroom. There are going to be some math questions, but don't forget to maybe make sure that you've looked at the syllabus, that you understand how to use email, how to make an appointment for tutoring, because questions about those sorts of things will be on there as a way for me to gauge how well you're actually understanding how to use the platform and how to use the different tools that I've put out there for you. So as always, make sure you have your notes taking materials ready with you, a correcting pen, a regular pen or pencil, plus either your notebook, loose leaf, or a printed out copy of the guided notes. We've got our questions here, simplify and factor polynomials. If you get stuck on any of these, remember you can always make the homework nomination form that's attached to this Google Classroom assignment. And then once you've gone through, check those answers, corrected them if you can. Then you're going to do 52 as your presentation from Chapter 1, Section 3. And that'll help you. Here will help you check all this understanding before you do the presentation in case you're worried about getting that wrong and you want to put your best foot forward. Hopefully for a lot of you this does still feel like a review. I know that we were using up a good amount of time at the beginning of the video talking about these sort of details. All right, so we're going to talk about simplifying and factoring polynomials. Some of these are going to have nice little shortcuts like the perfect square or the perfect cube. So when we simplify this, you can absolutely write it all out and expand it and FOIL it all the way out and FOIL it like that. Absolutely you can. You might remember from previous classes the nice trick here, a plus b squared will always end up being a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. So if you want to use that as well, here we see that our first term is 2x, and b is -5. Make sure that you're putting that negative with the number it comes after. So then a squared would be 4x squared, which would also be the first if you FOILed it, plus 2ab. So you can write it all the way out, 2 times 2x times -5, which can simplify to 2 times -10x, or all the way down to -20x, and then b squared, -5 times -5 is +25. So it's just a little trick to make it go a little faster. Similarly, for a plus b to the third, we can expand it out in FOIL, or we can remember the formula, which is a cubed plus 3a squared b plus 3ab squared plus b cubed. So in this case here, we could FOIL and expand it out. Otherwise, we can say that our first term here is a, our second one is b. So we end up with 1 cubed, so a cubed plus 3a squared b plus 3a plus b squared. I'm going to put parentheses around it just to make sure my organization stays good, plus b cubed, so 2y squared cubed, and then simplify down from there. The nice thing with a being 1 is that it's easier to simplify. We've got then 1 plus 3 times 1 plus 2y squared, which is 6y squared plus 3 times 2y squared squared, so 3 times 4y to the 4th, which would then be 12y to the 4th. If you want to see these steps written out more, I recommend looking at the guided notes, and starting next week we'll have built in a lot more space in these videos, so hopefully that will help, and I apologize for this now. We're still on the learning curve for the teachers as well. 2y squared cubed would be 8y to the 6th. And there you go. Yeah. There tends to be always going to be more written on the guided notes and then more spoken on the video, just because the different media, I guess, are good for that. Looking at problems 3 and 4, we're going to factor. Hopefully this again feels very familiar from previous classes. You've got a quadratic here. So you factor that last number. In this case, it's negative 15, negative 3, positive 5, negative 5, positive 3, negative 15, positive 1. And then because we have a leading coefficient here of 2, we know that in our final answer, we're going to end up with 2x and x. So when we FOIL the outer term here, will be multiplied by 2. So I sometimes even just will draw that in. So then the question becomes, if the outer term's times 2, which of these can I multiply by 2 to make it equal negative 7? And from this process, it's a bit of trial and error. Unless you want to use a calculator or a longer process, I find it's easiest in these cases to just do a little bit of trial and error and ask myself, okay, what about multiplying by 2 by negative 1? No. Here would be 3. Oh, but here, negative 3, and then 5 times 2 would be positive 7. So then I just need it on the other side. This does equal negative 7, negative 10 plus 3. So then the outer term, the one multiplied by 2, is negative 5, meaning that the inner term is plus 3. So that's factoring that quadratic. Again, hopefully it feels review for most of you. When we have a quadratic in 4 terms, then we want to maybe use grouping, which means we think of the 4 terms as 2 small separate groups and factor them individually first. So here we've got a squared minus 3a and 2ab minus 6b. So if I'm thinking about a squared minus 3a, an a would factor out of both, leaving a minus 3. So that's the factor of this first set. Plus, if I've got 2ab minus 6b, I can factor a 2 from both 2 and 6, and I can factor a b from both terms, leaving a minus 3. And here's how we know it's not a prime polynomial. Prime, remember, meaning can't be factored. So we've got the same term here from both, which we can then factor out from each of those. So a minus 3 in the front, and then we're left with an a from the first term plus 2b here from the second. And that's how you factor with grouping. All right, it's getting a longer video. It had that longer introduction. I will generally aim for videos to be between 5 or 10 minutes from this class. Again, there's more written on the guided notes if you want to see things more in depth, or please get in contact with me about setting up another one-on-one meeting, even if we've already had ours. Our last formula here that we're going to talk about is whenever you see something of the form that we see here, where we have x to some power minus 1. It's a very specific case, but it turns up a lot. And what we can do is we can factor out just a regular x minus 1 from it as one factor. And then the other factor is going to be all the positive terms counting down. So in this case, n, and then you factor out 1x, so then n minus 1, plus x, factor out from the next, plus all the way down to x squared, x, and 1. So it's kind of sort of counting down. An example of that would be here, if we have the same formula, we just have that n is equal to 3. So if I'm asked to factor x to the third minus 1, I factor out that x minus 1. That's always going to be our first factor. And then our second long factor is where we're just counting down our terms. So we factored out 1x. So then we were at 3. Now we're going to take that down 1. So then this is x squared, and keep counting down x, and then 1. And that's just a helpful trick. It doesn't come up all that often, but it's nice to know when you do see it. If you have any questions on this, please let me know in the comments below. If you have questions on any of these individual homework problems, please nominate them in the form, and make sure that you attach your presentation picture to both Tuesday's and today's homework. You'll attach the specific one here, so number 52 to today's, and Tuesday's presentation to Tuesday's. And if you have any questions about the quiz, I will be making a video about that, explaining some of those details, but if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments or in our meeting. I'll talk to you later.